Let me run to Abuja, where Mr. Gatima Lehman was a man who sought to rule Nigeria also through a democratic means this time. Mr. Lehman, from your own standpoint, at the moment when you said you contested to be a president in Nigeria, what were the problems that you saw that you think you would be able to come to salvage?
Well, the most important thing to understand in nation building is that the kind of minds that go into the strategic planning of a nation. And like you rightly said, in 2007, one of our key concerns was what was basically the problem facing the country. At that material time, we found out that there was huge positive funds that given the infrastructure deficit and the utility deficit and all the unemployment and all the close to about 100 million Nigerians subsisting on less than $1 a day. That was the World Bank statistics. Our thought was that Nigeria required, for a sustainable period of time, as per what Chief Olusegun Obasanjo had at that material done with his National Economic Empowerment Development Strategy, that's the NEEDS strategy, that Nigeria requires something in the average of $100 billion annually for a sustainable period of time, say another 10 years, for it to frontally deal with all these deficits that we had without corruption. And so our first major concern was that, yes, Nigerians will have the manpower, the skill, the scientific knowledge in diaspora within the Nigerian system. Yes, the infrastructure layout, to a greater extent, the road network, the railway networks are in place, the coastal in place, but a huge investment in terms of funds was what is lacking. And it's still the major problem facing even His Excellency, the Buhari administration.
Up next on the program, we still have our guest here in the studio, Mr. Odiofemu in Lagos, Mr. Gatima Lima in Abuja, with a call for divorce. Is there anything wrong in this marriage? We'll tackle all the angles when we return. Stay with us, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. President Buhari has emphasized over time that the unity of this nation is sacrosanct, despite agitations from across the country. Well, let's continue the conversation right here as we have my guest, Mr. Odiofemu, activist and writer, and also in our Abuja studio is a former presidential candidate, Mr. Gatima Lehman. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the program tonight. Let me come back to you quickly, Mr. Lehman. With the agitations that we see around the country, the president did say in his speech when he returned to the country that it is settled, that the unity of Nigeria is settled. What do you think may have necessitated these sort of agitations, some secessionists in nature?
Well, they say the idle hand is a playground of the devil, and at the same time you have infrastructure deficits, particularly in the mangrove southeast, and all these other places. So the most important thing is that if the economy is functioning very well, and the people have businesses to go to, and the infrastructure, road network, the railway system, the utilities, and all that, these children are in school, I don't think there will be even room for this kind of discussions in terms of, separatist movements and all that kind of a thing. Basically, if you look at the underlying reasons for the arguments for, resource control and the argument for secession and all that, the underlying cause fundamentally is because of the difficulties a lot of people are going through. So basically, if you address these issues and get the aggregate economy functioning, I don't think Nigerians have any other country to go apart from this country. It's an exciting country, and history and even the anthropology tells you that we are one people coming, some people say coming all the way from Nubia, or some are saying even as far back as the people of the Exodus and things like that. That when they came to Lokoja, they separated into Yoruba, some settled as indigenous people when you look at the Nok culture and all that. So there are a lot of things binding the nation together, but in spite of that, it's absolutely important for leaders to begin to understand that idle hands can really be a playground for the devil.
If I may quote from the president's word, is this Nigeria's unity is settled and not negotiable? We shall not allow irresponsible elements to start trouble, and when things get bad, they run away and saddle others with the responsibility of bringing back order, if necessary, with their blood. Every Nigerian has a right to live and pursue his business in Nigeria without let or hindrance. I believe the very vast majority of Nigerians share this view. Across perhaps the northern region of the country where you are from, Mr. Lehman, could it be the fact that a lot of people think at the moment that we need to sit down and talk? And Mr. Ofemi here said that we have really not sat properly.
Well, it's not about, as I said earlier on, it's about economic opportunities basically, you know. And if you look at the configuration of the nation, arguments about restructuring the states had, the creation of the states had made it very, very impossible for anybody to begin to think about going back to regionalism with four governors and all that kind of a thing. So basically, when you look at it, it's a huge economy. It's had great potentials. But the fact of the matter is that, is it functioning optimally? And that's the question. If the optimality issue is addressed, I don't think, as I said earlier on, that you begin to have all these questions about agitation. I happen to have been a student of a Unity College, and it's a very strange thing for us to begin to, at this late hour, think about separation, you know, and things. But we shouldn't take it for granted, as I said. You know, in the history, in the formation of nations, you see when things are taken for granted, a lot of difficulties, negative things will emanate from such kind of outlook. It's absolutely important that you begin to listen to the agitations. What are the key concerns, particularly coming from those that are in the southeast? You look at the infrastructure deficit there. It's really a very, very serious situation there. And I believe His Excellency President Buhari is addressing it. A couple of people that I've listened to when I was in a barber's shop yesterday, they said, look, for the first time in the southeast, for instance, they've started seeing some kind of development. Whether or not that is real on the ground and genuine, it needs to be, investigated, and to also encourage His Excellency to begin to focus on that. In spite of the fact that a lot of votes, he didn't receive a lot of votes, they are all part of a larger family. And if you begin to treat people along that line, inclusive government, you know, it becomes very easy for people to be participatory and then take all these negative things away from them.